I told my brother's fiancé about his cheating, and now my whole family has turned against me. So, I guess I should start with the basics. I, 27 female, am the middle child in my family. My older brother, James, 30 male, has always been the Bolden boy, the firstborn, the one who supposedly makes the family proud, even though, if you ask me, he's coasted through life on charm and manipulation more than actual hard work. My younger sister, Emily, 23 female, is the baby, the one everyone dotes on. So naturally, I grew up kind of stuck in this weird role of being not ignored exactly, but definitely less celebrated. I think some of you middle kids will get what I mean. James has been engaged to Clara, 28 female, for a little over a year. Honestly, I really like her, maybe too much. We clicked from the start, partly because we're both introverted in a family full of loud personalities, and partly because she's just genuine. She actually listens when you talk. She remembers the little things, like my favorite tea, or how I always feel awkward at family gatherings. Sometimes I'd catch myself thinking, wow, she deserves so much better than my brother. But of course, I never said that out loud. My parents, both in their late 50s, have always been obsessed with the idea of appearances. They love to brag about James, his job, his fiancé, how he's the responsible one. Meanwhile, when I bring up an accomplishment, like a project I did at work, or even just something small I'm proud of, it kind of gets brushed aside. Not maliciously, most of the time, but in that way where you realize your value in the family dynamic is not very high. That background is important because it explains why what happened later hit so hard. Spoiler, they didn't exactly leap to defend me when I told the truth. Growing up, James and I were never close. He was always out with friends, always the charmer, while I was more the bookworm. Whenever we did interact, he had this way of making me feel like I was overreacting or too sensitive or just plain annoying. Gaslighting is too strong a word, maybe, but it toes the line. Even now, at 30, he hasn't really outgrown that smug, I know better than you vibe. Clara, on the other hand, has been nothing but kind. She came into the family like a breath of fresh air. Even Emily, who doesn't get along with many people, likes her. Our family gatherings started to feel less like minefields and more like manageable because she'd take the time to sit next to me, ask how my job was going, or pull me into conversations so I didn't feel invisible. So yeah, when I say I care about her, I mean it in a very real, very protective way. She's not just my brother's fiancé to me, she's a friend. And that's why this whole situation blew up the way it did. Because when I found out something about James, something that shattered the picture-perfect image he and my parents had built, I couldn't just sit on it. I couldn't smile across the table at Clara and pretend everything was fine when I knew he was betraying her. But I'm getting ahead of myself. At the time, everything looked fine on the surface. My parents were deep into planning the engagement party, Clara was excitedly showing me Pinterest boards of wedding colors, and James was acting like the devoted fiancé. And me? I was just trying to keep my head down, like always, not realizing that I was about to become the family villain. Okay, so here's where everything really started unraveling. I wasn't snooping, I wasn't digging, I wasn't even looking for trouble, I swear. If anything, I wish I hadn't found out because life would have been so much simpler if I had just stayed in the dark. It happened kind of stupidly, actually. One Saturday afternoon, I went to this new coffee shop near my apartment. It's one of those trendy places with plants everywhere and overpriced oat milk lattes, and I was just planning to grab a drink and maybe read for a bit. Totally normal Saturday vibes. And then, guess who I saw sitting at the back table all cozied up with a woman who was definitely not Clara? Yep, my brother James. At first, I thought maybe it was a coworker or some old friend, But the way they were leaning into each other, the way his hand was on her knee, and then the kiss, like full-on, public, passionate kiss. My stomach literally dropped. I froze there. My brain went into that weird denial mode where you try to rationalize what you just saw. Like, maybe it's some kind of weird misunderstanding. Maybe I'm jumping to conclusions. But no, it wasn't. I sat there in shock for maybe 2 minutes, probably looking like a total creep staring at them. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost spilled my coffee. I didn't confront him then. Honestly, I couldn't even move. I slipped out quietly and spent the rest of the day pacing around in my apartment, feeling sick to my stomach. I wanted to vomit, cry, scream, all of it at once. Clara's face kept flashing in my mind. Her excitement about the wedding, the way she'd talk about how happy she was with James, and then the image of him with that other woman. I felt like I had been cheated on. That's how betrayed I felt. And here's the kicker. Part of me didn't even feel surprised. That's the messed up thing. James has always had this slippery vibe, like rules don't fully apply to him. He's the kind of guy who flirts with waitresses while his girlfriend is sitting right there and then laughs it off like, relax, I was just being charming. I used to brush it off as harmless, but now, seeing him like that in the flesh, it all clicked. I barely slept that night. I kept replaying it over and over in my head. Should I tell Clara? Should I confront James first? Should I just pretend I didn't see anything and hope it was a one-time thing? Every option felt horrible. If I told Clara, I'd destroy her world and also my relationship with my family. If I stayed silent, I'd feel complicit, like I was helping him lie. I didn't text anyone about it at first. I just sat with it. My chest felt tight, my stomach hurt, and I honestly cried at one point, not because it was directly my relationship, but because I knew what was coming. I knew that no matter what I did, things would never go back to the way they were. And deep down, I knew I couldn't keep it to myself. The days after I saw James at that cafe were some of the longest, most exhausting days of my life. It was like carrying a heavy stone around in my chest everywhere I went. I'd be at work, trying to focus on emails, but my brain would just circle back to Clara's face, to James's smug grin, and that woman's hand sliding over his. And the worst part? I couldn't talk to my family about it. My parents would never believe me. Or even if they did, they'd just brush it off as James made a mistake and beg me not to stir up drama. That's their MO. Sweep things under the rug, pretend everything's perfect, keep the family image intact. So I was on my own with this massive, awful secret. I thought about confronting James right away, but honestly, I was scared. Not scared like he'd hurt me physically or anything, but scared of the way he twists words. He's the king of making me feel like I'm the crazy one, like I'm being dramatic. I could already hear his voice in my head. You misunderstood. You don't know what you saw. Stop meddling in things that aren't your business. And maybe I would have believed him because that's the power he's always had over me. So instead, I tried to keep quiet. For a while, I told myself, maybe it was a one-time slip-up. Maybe it won't happen again. Maybe Clara doesn't ever have to know. I wanted to believe that so badly because if I didn't say anything, I could avoid the fallout. I could avoid being the family traitor. But then I'd remember little things Clara had told me, like how she trusted James with her whole heart, how she'd said once that she felt so lucky because she'd been burned in past relationships and James made her feel safe. I can't even describe how sick I felt replaying that conversation in my head. Safe? With him? No, she deserved to know the truth. I did end up confiding in one person, my best friend Sarah. I remember calling her at midnight, pacing my living room while whispering like a teenager sneaking a phone call. I spilled everything, what I saw, how I didn't know what to do, how I was terrified of blowing up my family. She was quiet for a long time and then finally said, if you are in Clara's position, wouldn't you want to know? That question hit me like a punch in the gut. Because, yeah, Of course I'd want to know. I'd want someone, anyone, to tell me if the person I was planning to marry was out there kissing someone else behind my back. But knowing the right thing to do and actually doing it, two very different beasts. I kept flip-flopping. One day I'd swear I was going to tell Clara, the next I'd talk myself into staying silent. I was so torn between loyalty to my brother and honestly fear of my family's wrath and loyalty to the truth. It felt like no matter what I chose, someone was going to end up hating me. After about a week of walking around with this horrible knot in my stomach, I couldn't take it anymore. I felt like I was lying to Clara every time I answered her texts or laughed with her over some silly wedding idea she was excited about. It was like there was this invisible weight pressing down on my chest, and the only way to breathe again was to at least try to talk to James first. So I called him. My hands were literally sweating just holding the phone. I asked if he could meet me for lunch, just us. He immediately sounded suspicious, like, why? What's going on? Which only made my heart race more, but I played it off like, oh, I just want to catch up. We ended up at this casual diner we used to go to as kids. I remember staring at the condensation dripping down my water glass, trying to figure out how the hell to start this conversation. Finally, I just blurted it out. I saw you last week at that cafe with that woman. I know she wasn't Clara. He froze for maybe 2 seconds, then did that thing he always does, laughed, like it was the most ridiculous accusation in the world. Wow, he said, shaking his head. I can't believe you're spying on me now. Do you seriously have nothing better to do with your life? That set me off. I wasn't spying. I wasn't snooping. I told him exactly what I saw. The hand on the knee, the kiss, the way they look like a couple. And he just smirked, leaned back, and said, you're imagining things. You've always been dramatic. Maybe you saw a friendly hug and built some whole soap opera in your head. That's when I realized exactly why I'd been dreading this. He wasn't going to own up to anything. He wasn't going to show a shred of guilt. Instead, he turned it around on me, like I was some meddling little sister desperate to ruin his life. I pushed harder. I said Clara deserved to know the truth and that if he didn't tell her, I might. His whole demeanor changed. He leaned across the table, eyes narrowed, and hissed, if you even think about saying anything to Clara, you'll regret it. Stay out of my business. I can't even describe how small I felt in that moment. Like I was 10 years old again, being told I was too sensitive, too nosy, too annoying. My face was hot, I could feel tears threatening, and I hated myself for it because the last thing I wanted was to give him the satisfaction. But I also felt angry, like boiling angry. Here he was cheating on the woman he was supposed to marry, and somehow I was the villain for pointing it out? When we left, he gave me this fake, cheerful pat on the shoulder and said, don't stir up trouble, okay? Clara doesn't need your drama. And then he just walked away, like it was settled. Except it wasn't settled, not for me. If anything, his reaction made me more certain that Clara needed to know. Because if he wasn't even capable of admitting it privately to his own sister, there was no way he was going to suddenly change or come clean. I left that diner shaking, humiliated, and angrier than I think I've ever been in my life, and also absolutely terrified about what would happen next. After that lunch with James, I honestly couldn't function like a normal human being. I went home and sat in my car for a good 20 minutes before I even went inside, just gripping the steering wheel and shaking. He'd made me feel crazy, like I always overreact, but deep down, I knew what I saw. And the fact that he threatened me, like I was the problem, made me feel even more certain that Clara deserved to know.
But deciding that and actually doing it were two totally different things. I spent the next few days in this awful limbo. Every time Clara texted me, my stomach dropped. She'd send me something sweet like a picture of a wedding dress she was considering or a funny meme about in-laws. And all I could think was, oh my God, you have no idea what's going on behind your back. It was eating me alive. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. One evening, I texted her and asked if she wanted to grab coffee. She said yes, of course. She always said yes because she genuinely liked spending time with me. That almost broke me before we even met. We sat down at a quiet cafe near her place, and I could barely get words out. My hands were trembling so badly I had to keep them under the table. I tried making small talk, but I was completely distracted. She noticed right away. "You okay? You look pale," she said. And that was it. I couldn't pretend. My throat tightened, my eyes stung, and before I could chicken out, I just blurted, "Clara, I need to tell you something, and it's going to hurt, but I can't keep it from you anymore." Her smile faded instantly. She leaned forward, all serious, and I swear my heart was pounding so loud I thought the whole cafe could hear it. I told her what I saw, the other woman, the hand on the knee, the kiss. I didn't sugarcoat it, but I also didn't add anything extra. I just laid out the facts. At first, she just stared at me, like she couldn't process it. Then her face crumpled and she whispered, "Are you sure?" And God, that broke me. 'Cause yes, I was sure. I nodded and tears started streaming down her cheeks. She asked if James knew I was telling her, and I admitted that I'd confronted him and he denied everything and told me to stay quiet. That seemed to make it worse for her, like confirmation. She kept shaking her head, whispering, "I can't believe this. I trusted him." I wanted to reach across the table and hug her, but I didn't know if she'd want that, so I just sat there, tears in my own eyes, apologizing over and over. "I'm so sorry. I didn't want to hurt you, but I couldn't let you walk into a marriage without knowing." She didn't get angry at me. Not that anyway. She just looked devastated. After a while, she gathered her things, said she needed to talk to James, and left. And that's when my stomach dropped again, because I realized what was coming. James would know instantly that I'd told her, and my entire family would hear about it. And I knew, deep down, that they would never forgive me for this. But in that moment, even though I was shaking and crying and felt sick, there was also this tiny flicker of relief. Like, at least I wasn't carrying the secret anymore. At least she knew the truth. The very next day, my phone started blowing up. Missed calls from James, angry texts, even a couple of frantic voicemails. I didn't even need to listen to them to know what they were about. Clara had clearly confronted him, and he knew exactly who told her. I couldn't bring myself to answer, so I just sat on my couch, staring at my phone lighting up like a Christmas tree, my heart racing. Finally, one of his texts came through. "You ruined my life. You couldn't keep your mouth shut for 1 second, could you? You're dead to me." I don't know why, but seeing those words written out hit me harder than anything he'd ever said to my face. My own brother telling me I was dead to him. I felt nauseous. A couple of hours later, my mom called. I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd be on my side, that she'd understand why I couldn't stay silent, but nope. The first words out of her mouth were, "What did you do, my name? Why couldn't you just leave it alone?" I tried to explain that I saw it with my own eyes, that Clara deserved to know, that I would have wanted someone to tell me, but she cut me off. "Do you realize what you've done to this family? James and Clara's engagement is off. Clara's parents are furious. Our family looks like a circus now because of you." I just sat there clutching the phone, shaking, while she went on about how I embarrassed everyone. Not once did she say she was disappointed in James. Not once did she acknowledge that he was the one who betrayed Clara. Somehow I was the villain for telling the truth. Then came my dad, my sister Emily, even a couple of cousins. Same chorus. "Why would you get involved? Why couldn't you stay quiet? Families stick together." I wanted to scream. Stick together? What about Clara? She was about to marry into this family. Did she not count? Did protecting James's image matter more than protecting her from being married to a cheater? Meanwhile, Clara went radio silent with me. I don't blame her. She was probably devastated, trying to piece her life back together, but that silence still hurt. Part of me was terrified she hated me too, that she lumped me in with the rest of the family drama and just wanted me gone. James, though, was the loudest. He sent me this long text, paragraphs of venom, calling me a jealous, bitter little girl, saying I'd always been resentful of him and this was my way of destroying his happiness. He accused me of wanting Clara for myself, which is so disgusting and insane that I actually felt sick reading it. And he ended with, "Don't ever show your face at family events again." So yeah, overnight I went from being the quiet middle child who mostly kept to herself to being enemy number one. My family group chat blew up with people taking sides. Except really, there weren't sides. It was just me against everyone else. And the irony, I didn't even feel like I'd done anything. James was the one who cheated. He made the choice to betray Clara. But somehow, in everyone's eyes, I was the one who tore the family apart. I've never felt so hated and so alone in my life.
I've never experienced silence like this before. It wasn't just that James blocked me on everything, which honestly I expected. It was the way the rest of my family followed suit in this weird, passive-aggressive Cold War. Suddenly, my text to my mom went unanswered. My dad, who usually calls once a week just to chat, stopped calling. Emily, who used to send me TikToks daily, went completely dark. Even my aunt, who I'd always thought was kind of neutral, unfollowed me on Instagram. It wasn't an official disowning, nothing dramatic like that. It was worse in a way. It was just erasure. Like I didn't exist anymore. Meanwhile, the family group chat that used to be full of memes and birthday reminders turned into this hostile place. I stayed in it at first, trying to keep some kind of connection, but every time I posted something, even something small like happy birthday to a cousin, it was either ignored or met with a curt thanks. One time, I tried to explain myself again, writing this long message about how I didn't tell Clara to hurt anyone. I did it because she deserved the truth. Within 10 minutes, my mom messaged back, "Stop trying to justify your betrayal. Enough." After that, I muted the chat. And then there was Clara. For the first couple of weeks, she didn't contact me at all, which I understood. She had her own heartbreak to deal with. But her silence gnawed at me. I kept wondering if she blamed me too, if she thought I'd only told her to cause drama, if maybe she'd wished I had kept quiet. Every time my phone buzzed, I hoped it would be her, but it never was. I spiraled, honestly. I'd lie awake at night replaying everything. The moment in the cafe, the confrontation with James, the way Clara's face crumpled when I told her. And then my family's anger, their words echoing in my head. "You ruined everything. You embarrassed us. You betrayed us." I started second-guessing myself constantly. Maybe I should have just stayed quiet. Maybe people are right when they say, "Not my circus, not my monkeys." But then the other voice would creep in. "If it were you, wouldn't you have wanted to know?" And the answer was always yes. Still, the loneliness was crushing. Holidays came and went, and I wasn't invited. My parents threw a little get-together for Emily's graduation, and I only knew because someone tagged photos on Facebook. Everyone smiling, everyone together, without me. Like I had been neatly cut out of the picture. I tried to throw myself into work, into hobbies, anything to distract myself. But every quiet moment circled back to the same aching thought. My family hates me. I did the right thing, and now I'm completely alone. And yet, even in my lowest moments, I couldn't regret telling Clara. What I regret, what I still regret, is how it destroyed everything else. It's been a while now since everything went down, and I feel like I'm finally past the immediate chaos. But the silence and the judgment still linger like smoke after a fire. And I keep coming back to the same question. What does family loyalty actually mean? Because according to my parents and James and basically everyone else with our last name, family loyalty means protecting James at all costs, covering for him, pretending nothing happened, preserving the shiny image of the perfect son and the perfect family. That's their version of loyalty. But I can't help but wondering, shouldn't loyalty also mean holding someone accountable? shouldn't it mean making sure the people around us aren't being hurt by our silence? Like, was I supposed to let Clara marry him all the while knowing she was being lied to and betrayed just so our family wouldn't look bad? To me, that doesn't feel like loyalty. That feels like complicity. And yet, even though I know that, I still feel guilty. I still hear my mom's voice in my head telling me I embarrassed the family. I still replay the messages James sent me calling me jealous and bitter. And the thing is, I don't even like James. I've never been close to him. So part of me wonders if my family is right, that I didn't do this out of loyalty to Clara, but out of resentment for him. That's the mind game of it all. I acted because I thought it was the right thing, but now that everyone hates me for it, I keep asking myself if maybe I had some hidden agenda. If maybe my brother's right and deep down I just wanted to knock him off his pedestal. But then I remember Clara's face, the way she whispered, "Are you sure?" The way she cried quietly into her hands. And I know I didn't make that up. I didn't twist it. I didn't invent a story to tear him down. I told her the truth, and the truth hurt, but it was still the truth. It's complicated because I don't feel proud of what I did. I don't feel like some noble truth teller. I feel wrecked. I feel like the bridge between me and my family has been burned down, and I'm standing alone on my side of the river. And sometimes in my lowest moments, I wonder if it would have been easier, if it would have been better to just let it go, to keep the secret. But then I picture Clara walking down the aisle in a white dress, smiling at James, believing every word of his vows, and I know I couldn't have lived with myself if I let that happen. That would have been worse. So, here I am, months later. My brother still won't talk to me, my parents act like I don't exist, my sister unfollowed me on every platform. Family gatherings happen without me, and I only find out through tagged photos or secondhand gossip. It's like I've been erased, cut out of every picture frame.
And the wildest part? James is still James. He's out there living his life, going to bars, posting gym selfies, and probably still cheating, just without a wedding looming over him this time. He lost Clara, sure, but somehow he's managed to spin the story so that I'm the villain who sabotaged everything. He's still the golden boy in my parents' eyes, just tragically betrayed by his bitter sister. Meanwhile, I'm the one sitting here with no family, questioning myself every single day. Clara and I haven't really talked since that night. She texted me once, weeks later, just to say, "Thank you for telling me. I'm sorry for everything you're going through." And that was it. No friendship, no closeness anymore, just silence. I don't blame her. She owes me nothing, but God, it hurts. Losing her almost feels worse than losing my family. And I keep asking myself, was it worth it? I mean, on paper, it seems obvious. A person deserves to know if their partner is cheating, especially when they're about to get married. I'd want to know. I think most people would. And yet, the way my family talks about it, or doesn't talk to me at all, has me questioning if I completely overstepped. Maybe it really wasn't my place. Maybe family loyalty should have outweighed everything else. Maybe I should have just bitten my tongue, let Clara find out on her own someday. Maybe then I'd still have my family instead of this gaping void where they used to be. But then, is silence any better? What kind of person would that make me to sit across from Clara at family dinners, watch her smile at James, watch her talk about her future, while I knew the truth and said nothing? That thought makes me sick. I'm stuck in this endless loop of guilt, righteousness, anger, and grief. One day I tell myself I did the right thing. The next day I feel like a selfish, meddling idiot who destroyed everything for nothing. So that's why I'm here, writing this out to strangers on the internet. Because my family clearly isn't a safe place for me to land, and Clara's gone quiet, and I just need some perspective.
Am I the asshole for telling my brother's fiance about his cheating? Did I do the right thing and just pay the price? Or did I massively overstep and ruin my own family out of misplaced self-righteousness? I feel terrible, but a part of me still thinks I couldn't have lived with myself if I'd stayed silent. Am I overreacting, or am I truly the villain here?